to next section, Scrum Theory and Practice. So in this section, we'll discuss the theory behind the Scrum. What is the theory? Basically, what is the underpinning elements of Scrum, and what are the pillars? Basically, the house of Scrum stand on three pillars. What are those pillars? Let's go into that. So Scrum, from theory perspective, Scrum is founded on empiricism and lean thinking. So these are the two key concepts on which the entire Scrum theory is based on: empiricism and lean thinking. Okay, most people, if you are preparing for an interview, most people tend to remember empiricism, but they forget lean thinking. But both of these are the key founding ideas or theory of Scrum. It is built on both of these. What is the meaning of each of this? Let's go deep dive into this. Empiricism asserts that knowledge comes from experience and making decision based on what is observed. What it means is, you what empiricism is saying is, the knowledge, whatever you are gathering, it comes from experience. Basically, you work on something, and while working, you experience some problems and you figure out those solutions. You take some decisions and you figure out some solution, and that's how you learn it. Because while you are experiencing things, you are observing, when you are working on certain things, you are observing what went well, what did not went well, and these are the decision we make. So the core idea of empiricism is that they are saying that the knowledge comes from the experience, which is basically by working on certain things and making decisions which are based on observation. You are working on something and you found that, this, the way you thought it was supposed to work, it is not working that way. So what you did is you pivoted to a different way. I gave you an example earlier. You built a skateboard of green color, right? And then you launched it to your customer. Your customer started using that board, and then you asked the customer, do you like the product? The customer told you, no, I did not like the product. Then you ask him another question, why you do not like the product? He said that, this is green color skating board and my kid doesn't like it because I have a daughter, she likes pink color. So can you make it in pink? Then you say, yes, why not? You build the next iteration of your skating board, which is your product. You change the color from green to pink, and you deliver that product. So what you learned something here through experimentation, through experience, through observation, that if you are building a skating board, and if your customer is a child, female child, she doesn't like green color, she likes pink color. If you make that, she's going to like it, and you will keep they will keep buying it more and more, right? So that's what empiricism is saying, that the knowledge comes from experience and making decision, which are based on observation. You observed something while working. Then what is the second underlying idea on which Scrum is built? Lean thinking reduces waste and focus on the essential. So this is another thing, which is reduce the waste. This waste can be, I mean, there are two main aspects of it. One is within the product which you are building, reduce the waste in that. And another is the ways of your working. Reduce the waste in ways of your working, right? The process you are following, reduce the waste in that. So from these two angle, the main two angle are these, from where they are talking about reduce the waste and focus on essential. Let's go a little bit deeper into it, what it means. I've already discussed this angle before, but I'm just going to remind you. If you remember our product backlog, on top of our product backlog, we had this these thin features, right? And which are very refined high priority features, which we are almost sure that that's what customer wants. And these are more like, they don't have much detail, but they are at lower level of priority, and these are the items which are rough requirement. You are not 100% sure whether customer want it or not. It have very little detail. So what Scrum does is, it is telling you to focus on essential and throw the waste. So basically this as you work more, and I mean as you ship more and more increment, you will come to know many of these rough requirements and more detailed requirements customer are not even interested in having those features. They might never use those features, or only few of your customer are interested in this, or it will deliver very low value to your customer. So those kind of things are almost like waste. You should not be building those features, you should not be focusing on those. What you should be focusing on is essential. What is the things or features or capabilities which your customer want, which will give maximum value to your customer. And that's where they are talking about reducing waste and focusing on uh, essential from product perspective, right? Then let's take another example. Another example is from process perspective, right? I'll give you an example which Elon Musk shared in one of his recent interview. So Elon Musk, as all of you know, that he's is basically CEO of Tesla, and he have majority share in Tesla corporation as well. So they were building a Tesla car, and what was happening is his production line was jammed for a long time, and he for a month or so, and he tried to figure out what is the problem. And he found that there is some component which is sitting under the car seat. It's some kind of sheet, metal sheet, which is coming out, and it needs some kind of bolts to bolt to connect this sheet or tie this sheet back to the body of car. And the bolt itself is not available, and because the bolt is not available because of chain constraint and all that, now he can't ship this car, because this metal sheet is projected out of the car floor, and it can harm anyone, right? So he need to bolt this, and but bolt is not available. So what he did is, if he asked his team members, like who have built this sheet, can you connect me to them? And then some of his team member told that this sheet is designed by the battery team, go and talk to them. So he went to the battery department, asked them that you have designed this sheet, what is the purpose of this sheet? And the battery department tells him that this sheet is not developed by them, it is developed by some other team, not by battery team, some other team, some other engineering team. So he goes to that engineering team, and this engineering team tells him that uh, this sheet was developed for certain kind of batteries, which so that they can be cooled in faster time, but we are no more using those batteries anymore. So after discussing all this, he found that there is no need of having that sheet in the first place. That makes sense. So this is another example of basically the process you are using to build your product. Basically, if you figure out what is the essential, what is the waste, you remove the waste, because something which is not adding any value to the customer, that is waste, or your stakeholder, that is waste. You figure out what is that. So that's what this second idea of Scrum theory is talking about, basically lean thinking, which is about, it's a basically a Japanese principle, and it is about basically reducing waste and focus on essential. Then Scrum employs an iterative and incremental approach to uh, optimize predictability and control risk. So what does that mean is, when you are building the product in an iterative way, iterative means, if you have seen in Scrum, what we are doing is cycle after a cycle, sprint after sprint. We build a small increment in one sprint, and then second increment in second sprint. Incremental means so iterative means cycle after cycle. You build something in one cycle, then next cycle you iterate, means you refine what you build in last iteration again and again. And incremental means you build them step by step. So you build the, let's say, the skating board example. First time, then you add handle to it, then you add basically pedal to it. So that is incremental approach. And why you are doing it like that is, you, by building it in iterative and incremental way, you are optimizing the predictability. In what sense? In terms of success, like success of your product. So you're making sure you are basically building something which the customer uh, want, right? So predictability in terms of success of what customer want, and you are controlling the risk, because now you are continuously integrating the feedback from the customer iteration after iteration in your product. That means you are reducing the chances of failure, so you are controlling the risk of product failure in that sense. Scrum engages group of people who collectively have skills and expertise to do the work and share or acquire such skills as needed. So what this point is about is basically Scrum. In Scrum, basically you have a cross-functional team. Basically, cross-functional means you have people who have all the expertise which is required to build this increment of product within a single team, right? That doesn't mean each person should be expert in, let's say, if you need, let's say you, for one user story you need developer, tester, and architect, right? These can be three different people who have these three different skill set. Each member doesn't need to have all of these skill set together. As a Scrum team, you should be capable to deliver a requirement together. You don't need individually, each person doesn't need to have all the skill. And then Scrum combines four formal events for inspection and adaptation within a container thing event Scrum. So to achieve this empiricism, what they do is they have these four events which we have already discussed before, which is sprint planning, Scrum, daily Scrum, and retrospective. Basically, these four events are there, which are again captured inside another big event, which is Scrum. So you use these four formal events for doing inspection and adaptation. So you keep inspecting your artifacts in each of these events, how they are progressing towards the sprint goal, and you keep adapting them based on what you have learned. The learning can be the feedback from the customer or feedback from the team itself. They might have found that, the way we did yesterday, that way is not working properly. Let's do it in a different way. And these events work because they implement the Scrum pillars of why these four formal event work, because they uses these three pillars: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. We'll discuss these pillars in more detail in next slide.